If you are not aware, we were the second state in the United States by 6 days to come out with CDE, to come out with state AI guidance back in 2023. And this learning series, this professional learning series, these webinars are based on our CDE guidance, which is called Learning with AI, Learning About AI. And so I did want to let you know that our website has that guidance, and it also has all of the previous recordings from these webinars. It even has last week's webinars in which we had some high school students give us their perspective. So definitely something you may want to check out. And don't worry if you don't get these down, if you're listening in the car or can't take a picture, all registrants will receive an email with these slides and links from the presentations and such. We also have a resource kit on our AI page that you can download. It is a PDF. And actually, one of our presenters, our speakers, Dr. Sonal Patel, is from San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools, and they are featured in there. So it has actual real stories with more coming soon. So myself and my colleague, Dr. Christina Mattis, organize these webinars for all of you. And we always have a kind of an essential question, so to speak. So how might we utilize AI to increase access for our underserved learners while prioritizing student safety? So we're really talking about being inclusive. How do we do that? How do we make sure that we are inclusive as we are utilizing these tools, and make sure that also that our students are safe? So wanted to point out from that resource kit a part of our foundational beliefs. So these are our 4 foundational beliefs at CDE in regards to AI. And I just wanted to point out this second one. It says, while AI can unlock increased learning opportunities, including personalization and accessibility, prioritizing student safety is paramount and must be addressed prior to deciding on its implementation. So again, there are so many great ways that we can utilize AI for accessibility purposes and personalization, but always, always we want to make sure that safety is paramount as well. I see my colleague, Dr. Christina Mattis, just jumped on. Welcome, and glad to see you. All right.
Well, hello, good afternoon, and please carry on.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. So we are going to be hearing from a couple of great speakers today. The first is Dr. Sonal Patel. And I wanted to point out that our speakers this month, all of them are CSTA, that's the Computer Science Teachers Association. They are CSTA Equity Fellows. So they have a a particular focus on equity, as well as looking at AI through a lens of computer science. And so all of our there are some great individuals from the state of California that are leading this computer science equity work, and we are excited that they are here today. Oh, and Sonal just dropped into the chat the information about the CSTA Equity Fellows. Excellent. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen because Sonal's going to go ahead and take over sharing screen as she moves forward and gets us engaged in this learning opportunity.
Thank you so much, Kat. Hello, everyone. Good to see you all. My name is Sonal Patel, and I'm the Program Manager for Digital Learning and Computer Science Education for San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools. And I'm also a CSTA Equity Fellow, as Kat shared, and I'm here with my fellow cohort member, actually, Tori Wadlington, which is really super exciting. For those of you that don't know about the fellowship program, definitely look into it, which is why I dropped it in the chat. It is a year-long program that is designed to develop leadership in equitable practices for computer science education, and they do a lot with artificial intelligence as well. And there's just a wonderful network of people that you can also tap into, even if you're not in the program. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of it. In addition, I do have an amazing team, some of whom are going to be speaking in subsequent AI webinars with CDE, including Tanya Coates, Jessica Boucher, and Omar Shepherd. And they continue to support all of our efforts at our county and our statewide efforts as well. But the best shout out, before I forget, goes to Catherine Goyette, because I mean, she has just been such a wonderful partner, and I continue to just appreciate all that she brings here. So today is going to be interactive. I said to Kat, I think people are, by 4 o'clock, people are just kind of ready to go to sleep, maybe, if you're anything like me, or maybe it's my age showing. So I want to make sure that, you know, I keep you engaged. So we are going to actually play a game in just a moment. But before we do that, let me go ahead and share my screen. I'm not going to get distracted with the people coming in, Kat. I'll give you that, that component. But I do want to take you through and just kind of share some of the work that we've been doing as a county. For those of you that don't know, San Bernardino County, one of the largest in the nation geographically. We have 33 school districts, and those are the districts that we primarily serve. And these are just kind of some of the great things that have taken place. This is the slide I want to be on this year alone, where we've worked to develop a whole symposium for a school district such as Bear Valley. We've implemented AI task force, like a 2-part AI task force series, where we continue to support their efforts from ground up. So if you have any questions about any of these later on, please do reach out, and I can definitely support your efforts within your county and your schools. We've done train the trainer type events as a team, where we support the TOAs that are leading the educators in their own school districts. We've been out to rural districts like Silver Valley Unified School District to just kind of start that foundational learning as it relates to AI. We have also partnered quite a bit with our SELPA, a special education department, and our multilingual services. If Jamie Leafstone's here, shout out to her, because she's really helped to support our efforts in our county. So that's been really powerful, because we sometimes hone in on our own expertise area and just bring in the diverse perspectives into spaces like this can be really powerful, and it's really helped to inform some of the efforts I'll be talking about in just a moment. Some of the other things that just might be of interest to some of you before we play a game is some of these credible partnerships that we've had. We've partnered with PlayLab AI that offer personalized chatbots, and they're currently a nonprofit that have just really supported our efforts as we think about personalized chatbots and how to create chatbots that are unique to us as a county office and as districts that are implementing particular initiatives. We've also partnered with, I hope we have our LA County friends here. We've partnered with LA County and Q in providing an AI unconference. And one of the reasons for that is because we really do appreciate that we're not the smartest people in the room. I can't remember the exact saying, but you know what I'm talking about. There are so many people here that offer so much expertise. As I'm talking to you today, please do shed light to that, add to the chat window things that you're thinking about, or maybe as I'm talking through this, you can, speak to some of your partnerships with these agencies, these organizations. One of our favorite partnerships have been with Digital Promise. I'll speak about that during the game. But we put on a workshop recently called Harnessing AI for Digital Equity with Kat Goyette there, Digital Promise, and PlayLab AI. And the Digital Promise component was really impactful as we addressed AI literacy issues and just kind of support with AI literacy, particularly with the new bill. And then we've also, this is another one where we did a chat bot, and we worked with PlayLab AI on implementing the workshop. And then we had a whole school district, Chaffey Joint Union High School District, that had created chatbots as a result that supported things like that. They created a math tutor for students to use, right? So students could engage with a tutor in real time and support their understanding of mathematical concepts, which was amazing. We also thought about wellness, right? Wellness initiatives. I think I just saw Sue Thoughts come in. Welcome, Sue Thoughts. I love you. And she really helped to support this event where we're thinking about mindfulness and, our teacher and educator well-being currently, especially in an era where technology is just so expansive, and we're learning new things about AI every day. And we did this in partnership with our Prevention and Intervention Department at San Bernardino County, which proved to be really successful. People really appreciated our approach to digging deep with AI and just taking care of ourselves as educators and administrators. We are all so busy all the time, and we advocate for us putting ourselves first sometimes, right? Because wellness is important. And I know Tori's nodding because Tori is the king of wellness, and he's done all sorts of wonderful things as it relates to educator wellness. So with that said, I'm going to drop, actually, I don't have the link, Kat. If you could drop in the link to Kahoot, but if you want to Google Kahoot it, I'm about to put the link for Kahoot in on the screen. Give me a second. And if you could join me, you don't have to put your real names. I always go with nicknames, but if you are super competitive, you might want to, but I don't have a prize other than you get to hear Tori next, but all of you get to hear Tori next, and he's amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and put the code on, press start. So if you could go to www.kahoot.it and put this pin in, let's get you all in. Perhaps some of our live Facebook Live viewers can also come on in. You're all welcome. Everyone's welcome. If you're at home currently and your families are there and they want to join in, please invite them in. It's a lot of fun for kids. All right. And then as I'm going through this Kahoot, you'll see slides in between. So there'll be questions and then there'll be slides. If you have anything that you want to add in terms of commentary, please add to chat. And I know Kat and Tori will help moderate that chat and respond accordingly. And then I'll look at the chat at the end of today, at the end of my presentation, and respond as well. I know Kat's planning on giving us a few minutes for Q&A as well at the end. Thank you. Thanks everyone for helping out with the Kahoot. The code is 9218207. Give a few more moments. So as you're adding to this, I'm focused on the topic of AI for inclusive learning. We've done a lot of work in that space here at our county, and like I said, we've leveraged all of those partnerships I talked about to support our efforts. And I just wanted to share some tidbits. It's always hard to do like a 20-minute thing, right? But I want to share a few tidbits with you today that you could take away, and then later maybe we can connect. All right, so I'll give it a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown. I'm still getting people. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And if you didn't get to join and you want to just add the answer to the chat, that is perfectly okay too. All right, let's start. How can we take a human-centered approach to AI in education? Center equity inclusion, elevate educator agency as they learn about AI tools, empower students as ethical AI users of AI tech, or all of the above. Yes, thank you. I wanted to, and of course, when I see that, you're like, yes, it's going to be center equity and inclusion. So I don't blame you for putting that. But all of these are just really important. You saw a picture a few moments ago of me helping support conversations within the realm of AI literacy. If you haven't been through any of Sue Thoughts' AI literacy lesson activities, that's exactly what I did in that picture. And it was so engaging to be able to talk to educators and address some of their fears, you know, and some of the fears I'm going to be discussing in a moment, and talk about responsible use and how we can support them in that, but really allow them to ask the questions, right? So when we talk about educator agency, we're letting them be involved in that process, right? What can we use some of these AI tools for? How can we best leverage them to support us within our classroom? And of course, all of this work is about centering all of our students and centering the work around equity and inclusion. That includes elements of how do we use these tools to help personalize education for our diverse learning needs, but it also includes the ethical considerations, the access points, right, which I'll mention in a moment after our next question. And we'll delve into a couple of these other areas in just a moment. Let me go to the next slide. Who do we have in the lead? Dr. G in the lead. Nice job. I'll stay on here because I don't stay on this for long enough a lot of times, and people are like, we didn't see who's in the lead. Okay, I'm going to go next. All right, true or false? Digital Promise recommends using an isolated technology-based approach when exploring how AI technology can address digital equity. What do you think? Definitely not an isolated approach because, you must already see it. We all have to be kind of responsible for what is happening with AI integration and the expansion of technology, including all sorts of emerging technologies. And so what I wanted to get out of this is I think it's a responsibility of so many people, and not just the administrators, but our educators and our counselors. Earlier, I talked about AI task force. So even when I put those AI task force together with our school districts, we make sure that there are, different voices at play that are kind of part of the whole initiative, the work group initiative within our task force, including administrators, teachers, counselors, family engagement leaders, students. Even the student voice is just so important. So when we think about AI and how it can address digital equity, I think all voices are important. And I do want to share kind of another slide with you in just a moment. Second, Dr. G still in the lead. So this is the digital equity framework by Digital Promise. Can you just put in the chat whether you've heard of this framework, seen it before, yes or no? I'd love to just kind of get a sense for that. Have you seen this framework before? Okay. So this is the framework that kind of drew me into my partnership with Digital Promise as we continue to expand this work, especially with our district teams that are involved. And what I really appreciate are each of these areas and how each of these areas connect to AI implementation. So when we look at coherent policies, we're thinking about perspectives and how districts check that it does not compromise student privacy when sharing the student data that is needed to personalize resources, right? And when we look at consistent access, we're thinking about, are students able to use these resources at home or in their community locations as they study, or will they experience barriers? It's, not very different to what we've been talking about in terms of like access to technologies in the past. But now more and more, we need to kind of really hone in on that area. When we talk about digital competency, that's the professional learning. What does professional learning look like that enables our educators to use generative AI to differentiate lesson plans and other materials for students? Tori will talk a little bit more about how he's doing it as an educator, special education educator that is in the classroom doing this work. So he'll share a few insights on that in a moment. And then for powerful learning, that's about strong principles, learning principles. So with everything that we do, one example is prompting, just the simple art of prompting our generative AI technologies, right? How do we prompt it in such a way that it yields the best possible output? And some of that might be including some learning principles that we are really aware of and believe in, such as the universal design for learning approach. And how do we do that how do we leverage the technology to help us to be able to provide activities that offer multiple means of representation and think about multiple means for action expression, and also think about learner variability in general, right? And then of course, leadership for digital transformation. What does that look like? And how are we, how are leaders orchestrating the necessary coordination, guidance, and support so that these elements are well integrated and consistently applied throughout the whole entire school system? And like I said, the AI task force that I'm hearing about in multiple county offices, those programs that I'm hearing about does invite multiple voices at the leadership level, and I really appreciate that. Definitely many levels. So if you want to learn more about this framework, just if you Google digital equity framework and even the AI literacy framework that Digital Promise have created, you'll get more details and get more granular into what this is about. definitely lots to impact. Sorry, now for the game. How can educators ensure AI tools are equitable for learners? There's so many ideas, but here's some. Selecting AI tools designed for diverse and representative data sets, by relying entirely on AI for assessments, by avoiding AI altogether, or by using AI to replace direct instruction. Yeah, absolutely. So, we know that none of these tools are flawless, right? Because there are data sets that are used to program, and the algorithms are used to program these AI machines and technologies, and people are behind that, and all sorts of data that is being collected is behind that. So I think it's a really big aspect of this, right? What tools are we selecting for our students? And I think it's not just the responsibility of the educator to do that, it's a responsibility of all of our district teams, right, to think about these tools, and have we vetted them carefully enough? Have we used California student data privacy policy to think carefully about the student data, the student privacy aspect? Have we looked at some of the potential flaws ourselves? Have we critiqued, I'm going to use Kat's words, leveraging AI technologies, but have we critiqued some of the inaccuracies and some of the biases that might be involved? And I did put one of the other answers as by relying entirely on AI for assessments, because we know that there are AI programs like iReady that are adaptive and inform some of the learning, and provide diagnostic results from assessments that students take, that are adapted, that use AI for that adaptiveness. But we also know that we should be looking at more than just that assessment, right? And so when we talk about humanizing AI, we're talking also about, like, let's use some AI to help support us in student learning experiences, but let's not just use that. We know our students and we know what they're capable of, and let's use a breadth of different assessments before we just kind of solely rely on one. So I want to move to the next question. Dr. G still in the lead, but we've still got some great follow-up people. Sammy, I know you could catch up. I know it. I just wanted to share this because I mentioned a few of the biases, and I know Tori's going to actually speak to this in a moment in a real life situation. But I really appreciated this quote, which I won't read to you, but I'll leave it up for just a moment. It's by Dr. Ruha Benjamin from the book Viral Justice.
And Sonal, actually, if you want to read it aloud in a moment, because people that are watching on Facebook on their phone might not be able to.
Oh, they might not. Okay.
Maybe give a moment and then read it.
Yeah. So the title is The New Jim Code, and it says, from everyday apps to complex algorithms, technology has the potential to hide, speed, and even deepen discrimination while appearing neutral and even benevolent when compared to racist practice of previous era. So I just want that to kind of settle in for a moment. And for those of you that have watched Coded Bias, right, you get some instances of this, and you get some ideas on what that could all entail. There are some machines and technologies out there, quite a few machines and technologies that are not flawless, that don't have good facial recognition software, for instance. Those of you that are familiar with Joy's work on algorithmic bias. But there's one instance of this that I just kind of want to bring out for a second. Did anyone hear about this story with Amazon's robot that was used to find the best possible candidate for a tech-related position by looking through historical data, looking through resumes, right? And so this robot got the best 20 possible candidates, 20 or more, I don't know the exact number, and it ended up providing us with the best possible candidates through the use of the historical data. And that wasn't necessarily the best possible candidates, and it was they were scrutinized for the candidates that the machine detected as the best candidates, which were mostly white and Asian males. Now, Amazon's doing a lot of work around technology and trying to make their technology workforce more diverse, but this robot definitely didn't do it, because it weeded out the candidates who were female or people of color that could have been good candidates for this position. So that's just one one example of how this might be prevalent in our machines today. what best sums up what ethical AI means. Not cheating, AI that aligns with moral principles and societal values, using AI for lesson planning, or all of the above. I have too much time on this, so I'm going to skip it. I just realized after I see more responses. See if I get a few more. Okay, I'm going to go skip. This one is that, yes, I know I try to trick you with the all of the above. I'm sure that always gets people, but AI that aligns with moral principles and societal values, that's a huge aspect of this. We're moving away from cheating, which I'll show you a meme of in a moment. But the technology I just showed you from Amazon is an example of why we need to really think about some of these technologies, the kinds of transparency and accountability they have as tech companies when they produce these machines, and whether these machines inherently are inclusive. And in addition to that, we need to think about ways in which people are utilizing AI and some of the ethical standards that we need to abide by. I know we're doing a lot of policy work out in school districts and thinking about ethical considerations as it relates to students. And for me, it really isn't, oh, Kat's in the lead now. Way to go, Kat. For me, it really doesn't, it doesn't just stop there. And I'll show you the meme next in just a moment. But according to Common Sense Media, approximately how many US teenagers use generative AI tools such as ChatGPT for various purposes? Thank you. Yes, it was 70%, believe it or not. And I do want to share that I was meant to have a slide earlier to follow up on the point I was making. And this was the slide. I'm hoping it is the next slide. Let me get past this storyboard. The scoreboard. Adrian's in the lead now. I love this. This is it. This was the meme. So you've been accused of AI cheating. Here's what to do. And I wanted to just kind of draw out the fact that there are a lot of our students, even if it's banned at schools, a lot of students are using it. I have a 14-year-old daughter. She uses it on a regular basis. I hope she doesn't get trouble at school right now, but on a regular basis to help her with things like breaking down math word problems, right? She takes integrated math too, and she may need support on breaking down word problems so that when she goes into her school setting the next day, she feels confident enough to articulate the response to some of those answers, right? So that is just kind of one idea of how students may be using it. And I know we want to jump right into kids are cheating, but how do we have these conversations and continue to have these conversations with our students so it is not constantly about our kids cheating, but it's about ethically using these AI platforms to help serve them. And I know Sue's put an additional link in there. Thank you, Sue, so that you can follow up on some of this work. I appreciate you. How can AI support inclusive lesson design? So we've given some ideas, but here's some more. By providing scaffolds to support diverse learners, by using generative AI to offer ideas for personalized learning, by adapting learning based on real-time responses, or all of the above. Yeah. Oh, actually, that was all of the above. My bad. I'm sorry. Because it is really about not just using AI for personalized learning, but also providing scaffolds to support diverse learning needs and by adapting learning based on real-time responses. My apologies. I hope that didn't spoil some of your scores. And I just want to, I know Tori's going to speak in a moment about real-time instances of how he's able to support learners, but there's just such an amazing, there's a plethora of tools out there, such as Brisk Teaching and Notebook LM and generative AI tools that support lesson design, Magic School, as people mentioned here. There's just so many tools out there that can really enhance the learning experience for our students. And I really do appreciate that aspect of utilizing AI. I love the fact that and just the other day when we prompted AI to come up with the best possible lesson plan for a station rotation experience, because I've been about blended learning for a long time, but how do we create meaningful stations that are around some of the standards that need to be addressed, that are thematic, that are relatable for our students, right? Bringing in some of those aspects of student identity into the work and the asset-based experience. How do we do that? And how do we incorporate that in existing lessons? And there are lots of ways in which we can do that now. And I really appreciate that aspect of it. So let's see. I know I ruined that scoreboard, but Adrian's still in the lead. Great job, Adrian. And, I just talked about universal design for learning, but I don't know how many of you are familiar with the new UDL 3.0 guidelines. These are some of the, this is an overview of changes by each of the principles that I just want you to take a look at for a moment. I'll pause for a moment, then I'll read over some of the ideas expressed here. So my team and I recently just got very excited about the fact that these ideas have been considered and are now part of UDL 3.0. But the fact of the matter is, and I know you, some of you may agree, I'm just going to say it, our curriculum doesn't necessarily address every single one of these areas, right? Such as emphasizing the role of belonging in teaching and learning and promoting the role of joy and play for learners and educators alike. Cultivating empathy and repairing harm with restorative practices. Those aren't always emphasized, right, in the curriculum. So I think that, just for that aspect alone, us using some of these tools to our advantage to help us as a collaborative tool, right, that can support us and our efforts to revamp our learning environments and to support our existing lessons and our curriculums, I think can be a beautiful thing. So I just wanted to make sure that I address that. For representation, for those of you that are listening on your phones, the new 3.0 UDL guidelines includes diversity, authentically representing a diversity of identities, perspectives, and narratives, considering perceptions of people, cultures, and languages, and valuing multiple ways of knowing and making meaning. Just that alone is, if you think about some of the tools that are out there that are able to give students a way to represent their learning in multiple different ways, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. And then in action and expression, some of the changes include honoring and valuing a wide variety of forms of communication, centering and valuing forms of expression that have been historically silenced or ignored by addressing biases, and challenging exclusionary practices to build more accessible, inclusive spaces and systems. I get the pleasure, I said earlier, of working with our special education department quite frequently, and they continue to wow me on some of the technologies that are out there that have increased accessibility. And now with AI, the expansion of AI, there's been that whole expansion of using some of these technologies with a greater amount of accessibility than ever before. So I continue to be impressed by those. I'm going to end with just talking about this AI literacy framework. I talked about digital promise already, so I'm not going to belabor this because I definitely want to pass the baton to Tori, but do check it out. I think it'll be impactful and it'll complement the digital promise framework quite a bit, and you'll see those connections. So the last question, true or false, the Day of AI curriculum is a free hands-on curriculum of lessons and activities to empower with AI literacy skills. Yes, it is absolutely true. So those of you that haven't heard of the Day of AI Literacy, I highly recommend it. It has a whole host of K through 12th grade curriculum for addressing AI literacy. And I know that's top of mind for a lot of people right now. And even if we're afraid of using the tools, more than afraid, even if we're concerned about, our students' use of the tools right now, especially right now as we're vetting them, we can at least start having these conversations with kids about the responsible use and more about the foundational elements of AI. Common Sense Media also has a wonderful AI literacy curriculum. And that is it. So on the podium, we have Jem in third place. Second place, Kat. Oh no, Kat, you got knocked off the leadership board. And finally, Adrian is in the lead. Awesome job, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and close off. And stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to turn it over to you to share your screen, Tori. Thank you, Tori.
Yeah, I'll be sharing my screen actually for Tori. Thank you.
Okay, no worries.
But Sonald, so much, I appreciate that reminding us that everything being grounded in universal design for learning is a great way to ensure that as we're moving forward with AI, that we are doing so in an inclusive manner. And I, like you, am super excited about the updates to UDL. So thanks for calling that out. I also saw your computer science lens when you were talking about the data that goes into these AI systems. And that's something that certainly I think we often don't think about. And lastly, but right before I turn it over to Tori, I wanted to point something out. And that is that at the it's something that actually Sonal had mentioned, and that was that there is a bill 28, AB 2876, I believe, that did call for future curriculum frameworks to consider integrating AI literacy. And so, as Sonal was saying, when we're talking about AI literacy, this is something that the state sees as very important, but not as necessarily one more thing, similar to how UDL is a way that we think about learning. This can be similar. So, and I also wanted to say when it comes to AI literacy, Sonal, there was a question in the chat about the, if you could show that framework again, maybe if you could put in the link to the digital promise information for that framework. And perhaps even the common sense one as well, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. I also wanted to talk about this because our next CSTA Equity Fellow speaker, Tori Wadlington, is an educator that is grappling with how do I help my students have AI literacy in the classroom? And how do I, as an educator, learn to have AI literacy? And so want to introduce Tori, again, CSTA Equity Leader, Equity in Action California co-founder, IAQ board member, educational specialist for Murrieta Valley Unified School District, if I could say that correctly. And I first met Tori, we were on a panel together, gosh, 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, at LA County Office of Ed, their first AI symposium. And what I appreciated was Tori's experience in special education and making sure that those students and all students, but particularly with that lens, have the access to all the things we can do with AI. So Tori, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank everybody for sharing your time with me today. So I wanted to address some of the biases for AI in terms of racial, gender specific, and even with some of our students with cognitive disabilities and some of the lower socioeconomic studies. And recently, I've learned how AI is affecting in a positive way, actually, our incarcerated youth as well, with having better access to education and being able to fulfill all education needs before they leave a program if they're in one, and it helps them on the job market. So I'll be talking about that, and I won't take up too much of your time because I want to leave room for questions. But yeah, next slide, please. So here are 3 of the AI tools I use the most in my classroom. I use ChatGPT when I want to be really creative. I started using it for the first time when I was teaching high school. I teach 4th and 5th grade this year. But when I was teaching the high school in my RSP class, the students were reading the Odyssey in their English class. And when they came to my class, they were reading the Odyssey, but they were pretty disengaged. And so I used ChatGPT to create a kind of like create your own adventure activity, I guess, as somebody is part of Odysseus' crew. So they came across everything that happened in the Odyssey, and they got to kind of choose their own options as to what they would do, how they would handle it, what they would tell Odysseus, and it made them really engaged, and it helped them all to perform better on their assessment when they finish the book. So I said, okay, cool. I'm gonna use this more often. Then I used it again with helping them create these album covers that were reflective of their life. So instead of making like a vision board, which some of the other classrooms were doing, we made an album cover where they were able to create art that was reflective of their personality, like true to them. And in the back of it, they had a set list, and each song represented a significant moment in their life that led to the song. I mean, to the title and everything. And that helped a lot. And that was my first foray into seeing the biases in AI, because some of the students who weren't of a more well-known culture, they couldn't find a lot of things. And so even when I did it with some adults later, we keep bringing up Sue. She shouldn't have came in here. She's going to always be brought up. But Sue did it with me, and Sue is Japanese, and she tried to find some kaito drums, and it just didn't know what to do. It kept giving like random drum sets. It just couldn't dig into some of the deeper cultures out there, the more lesser known, like I said, cultures out there, to give them proper resources or images or anything of that nature. So that's when I started really looking into that. And of course, I watched Coded Bias and learned about that. And that's when I learned that it all comes down not to just the AI, because a lot of people think it's the AI itself just kind of being biased, but it's the programmer of whatever AI you're using that puts in what they believe is necessary information. So after that, that's when Gemini and Copilot started coming out. So I kind of start going through all of them, trying to see which would give me better information. Now, I told Sana I wanted to use it today as an example, but they fixed it since then. But I would say last year, Black History Month, I typed into Chat GPT, hey, give me some historical Black figures that had to do with education and the arts and music. And Chat GPT gave me like a huge list. And so I put it into Gemini as well. And for whatever reason, Gemini was like, oh, we don't want to talk about any specific race. There's been so many people who have helped in education. And I was like, well, that's interesting. And I put the same prompt into Copilot, and it just completely was like, nah, no, we're not going to do that. So I thought it was interesting that only one software or one AI was going to actually give me information on it. And so I tried to show it again today, but they fixed it since then. But that just goes to show that there are still biases from AI to AI. So kind of fool around with it whenever you get some time. Ask it random cultural questions, maybe even like controversial questions that could kind of like pose a lot of politics, just to see what answers you get. And something I did earlier today, just as an experiment, and it kind of, I don't know, it didn't really freak me out, but I did go to Chat GPT. We are learning about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the whole school right now. And the students had a lot of questions. And one kid was like, oh, I wish I could talk to him today. And so we used Chat GPT, and I said, hey, just put the prompt in, hey, can you pretend to be Dr. King today? I want to have a conversation with you. And I have the prompt up here. I'll read it to you. And it said, I can definitely channel Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s tone, ideals, and way of speaking to engage in a meaningful conversation. What would you like to discuss with him? And I just put it simple like, oh, was it hard doing the things you had to do? And they responded, my dear brother or sister, the road to justice is never easy. The struggle for freedom, equality, and dignity has always been met with resistance, but I have never wavered in my faith that love, truth, and righteousness will prevail. There were times of great hardship, threats against my life, long nights in jail, the weight of entire movement resting on my shoulders, but I did not march alone. The road was hard, yes, but I will walk it again, for the dream remains worth every step. Tell me, my friend, what burdens weigh on your heart today? And I thought that was just really interesting. I didn't go deeper because some of the students didn't really know what he meant by that last question of what burdens, weigh on your heart today. But I thought it was just an interesting way they could use it to talk about, talk to different historical figures that they may not have a lot of information on. Of course, we have what I like to call the big three for Black history that you always learn about: Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman, and Rosa Parks. But there's so many other historical figures, and not even for Black history, but even for like indigenous people's history, Asian history. This is so much more out there. And I like to use AI for that in my classroom. And it's been very beneficial. Now, Magic School is what I go to directly for my actual position. As a special education teacher, I've used Magic School to help me with IEPs, and it has helped tremendously. So now could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So one thing I do not like when it comes to IEPs, and if anyone in here is a special education teacher, just go in the chat and say hey or whatever. But there's so many like books that everybody has read on how to teach a special education student. What I don't like about that is that every single special education student is going to be different from the last one. So studying one group is not going to work the next year. And we have been, I don't want to say forced, but just kind of like, yeah, just keep doing what they did. And it doesn't work. And so I just started putting in information about the student into Magic Schools, and it'll give me like the perfect individualized plan. So usually I'll put in test scores in here based off of the assessment I did to see where they land. I'll put in teacher notes, everything. But for this one, I just went through for the disability category. I put specific learning disability in the area of auditory processing. And for those who may not know, that just means they don't really get instructions well. You can read to them, you can say something to them, and they're hearing you, but they're not really grasping it. And I put, please write me a goal for a fourth grade student with low attention and auditory processing disorder that addresses decoding multisyllabic text at grade level. So could you go to the next slide, please? So it gave me like perfect goals. Oh, by the end of the IEP period, they'll improve the coding skills to read 80% of multisyllabic words. I didn't put the whole thing, but above it, it even gives you baseline data you could use. It explains like why it chose this goal in case you want to explain to parents. And it gives you a few goals to choose from. And what I also like about it, and let's say you have an IEP student in your classroom and you kind of want to know how else you can help, you can put it in there yourself, and it shows you accommodations and modifications. So it says you can provide written instructions alongside verbal directions. You can allow for extended time on reading assessments and assignments, use visual aids and graphic organizers, implement frequent breaks during reading tests, and it just goes on and goes on. So it's been very helpful for myself where I'm used to working with that unique population of students. But for some of the gen ed teachers that I work with, I also send them this information, and it helps them in the classroom as well. Because I only see them for like 40 minutes to 60 minutes a day. But they're like, oh, this has been very helpful. Now I know what to look for, what triggers. I can tell when you're kind of like falling behind, and I just pull up the list and I know exactly what to do in the classroom. And it's helped the students stay, I don't want to say completely at the same rate as their peers, because they do have, cognitive disabilities, but much closer. Let's say if it was like out of fifth place where they were all the way in fifth at first, now they go between like third and second. Like they're floating there, they're keeping up, they're able to understand because the teacher is able to differentiate instruction in real time and just bring it to their level without drawing too much attention to them, without having to print a bunch of different worksheets for them or anything. It's just like, all right, just say it this way for them, and they're able to grasp it. And so another thing that using AI in special education and for students who have different needs is very helpful. You can use it for, of course, personalized learning, providing that tailored learning path, assistive technology, which is becoming more widespread now post 2020, whereas it used to be only a handful of students had access to devices. Now every student has access to devices. So all of my, all devices on our campus have text to speech, speech to text options, dyslexic text, like everything for them. So that's been very helpful. Just that improved accessibility. If parents are on the fence during an IEP meeting about, well, I don't know if I want him to go to RSP or to a SDC, can we try something else? Absolutely. We have these tools now to really fine tune their engagement in class and see if it helps first. And it also helps with your data analysis. I don't have to keep a giant binder anymore of a bunch of like written down data that I've been tracking for the past 5 years of a student. I can put it all online and keep a data archive, and it tracks the data again in real time. And when I do have another meeting with that parent and I bring that out, it's like the most accurate data I can have. And this next part I'll make very, very quick, but I just really thought it was interesting in terms of incarcerated youth. So there's a group called Monogram, and I'll put this resource, this article into the chat. But what they've done is they developed an AI tool that brings different texts, and they have a whole library, but just different educational texts that can be changed to the level of whoever is incarcerated. So let's say they went into juvenile at like 6th grade or something like that. And they've been there for a few years and they're working on their GED. They'll take whatever text they need to learn, and using the AI, they have a slider that can change the Lexile number like in real time. So it can bring it from maybe 8th or 9th grade down to 6th grade. Another thing it does is it takes legal documents. So let's say their lawyer sends them something to read. Oh, read this and prepare for a trial. They might not know what's going on, but they can take those legal documents and also bring it down to like a 6th grade Lexile level, so they have a better understanding of what's going on and they can better represent themselves. So there's a lot of tools out there that AI is like building a foundation of, and they just now are experimenting with incarcerated youth. And so far, they've seen the growth in 14% just within the past couple of years of incarcerated youth getting their GEDs on time and being able to better acclimate back into society and get a job. So I'm just excited to see like how much further they can go with it. And so MIT and Harvard are also helping with this program and sending documents and articles for students to read. But yeah, oh, one last thing. I have to give them a shout out. I am also working with a group called OTAN, which stands for Outreach and Technical Assistance Network, and they specialize in adult education. And we've also been using AI to help adult learners. And these are just incarcerated adults. We have them too, but anyone who could have maybe had to drop out of high school at 13 for whatever reason, and now they're trying to come back in and get their education. And we've been using technology to help them get a better grasp on their education, to help them in the workforce and everything. So that's all I have for you guys today. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll put my email in the chat. And thank you.
Thank you so much. That is fascinating and encouraging to hear about the great ways AI is increasing accessibility um, for the court systems, the court schools, and for the and also for the adult education. I think sometimes there are certain populations that we sometimes forget about when we talk about education. So I appreciate you bringing that up. That's excellent. I do see in the chat a question. Are you tracking data in Magic School?
Let me see if I don't really track the data. It'll keep data for me sometimes. So even when I put in that fake prompt today, just to kind of just pull one up, it still has on the sidebar every prompt I put in. So I had on the side all goals and test scores I put in the past. And so I can go back to that and probably use that and say, okay, they've come up this much percent. What can I do moving forward? I haven't tried that yet, but it does save those prompts in there for me if you
Awesome.
use the IEP generator button. And I saw another question for me that
Yeah.
said, have you found that AI for SPED is mainly used for IEPs and teachers of SPED students to better serve them? Or is it this plus actual use of AI tools specific to SPED students for learning? I would say it's a mixture of both somewhat. I've always been the rare SPED teacher who was using technology a lot in the classroom, which is how I kind of got into this space, how I met Sono. I was always tech forward and bringing computer science into my classroom because I saw the benefits of it. Um, I'm helping other teachers. I had a special education teacher ask me earlier this year, how are your IEPs so detailed and fine-tuned? What classes did you take? And I was like, I didn't take any classes. I just use Magic School, and I'm just able to use, the data in there that helps me a lot. And so they've started using it as well. And I also, like I said, I'll share it with that student's gen ed teacher as a plus for their classroom. So it's kind of the foundation for my classroom, but I am a particular case where I already have the knowledge of computer science to use it in my classroom. But I do think that it could be a foundation moving forward for a lot of special education classrooms because I feel like the programs are just constantly evolving year by year. And if they do want to go into the more inclusionary classroom, like they keep trying to tiptoe into, I do think that AI data will support that the best because it will give you that real-time differentiation.
Yeah, such a great point. I appreciate that. I've seen some videos that Microsoft had, for example, where it real-time apps that tell you where you are and what's in front of you and things like that, real-time translations, like all these real-time um technologies. I think you're right. That makes a really big difference. I so appreciate both you, Tori and Sonal. Love to hear. Are there any other questions or thoughts? I'll watch the chat here, or anyone seeing AI by Microsoft. Thank you for reminding me of the of the name. And it's been out since like this was a 2018 video. So a lot of this technology is definitely here or has been here for a bit and is always improving. Let's see, Sonal's saying, I like to think through the universal design lens when it comes to AI use. Absolutely. Brisk Teaching, Notebook LM, and Diffit, some great ones. Oh, does anyone know of any ed departments that are talking about the AB 2875 and how to implement it? I know that Sonal in San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools, they had an AI literacy, she mentioned it briefly, but an AI literacy day to support schools. Do you want to speak a bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, you really set the scene, Kat, in you started talking about what the bill is and what it really means, because as you all know, it's not a mandatory bill, right, Kat? That's how we're
It's a,
saying
yeah,
recommended.
it is a bill that is asking um, future curriculum frameworks that the state has that they
Right.
consider integrating AI literacy into that curriculum. So there is with that bill, there's not a current mandate that that education departments all
Right.
move forward right now, but seeing that the state sees this as important, it's a great time to start to explore what that might mean for the
Yeah.
future.
And then, when Kat explained what the bill is about, we then went into a really great discussion with school districts, with our partners at Digital Promise that were willing to support. And they engaged them in a discussion around this AI literacy framework that I talked about, that I added to the chat window. And I love that the actual framework does include things like AI literacy practices. For example, algorithmic thinking and abstraction and decomposition, that's where we bring the computer science in. And what are we looking for in terms of students? Well, we're looking at defining procedures as algorithms and testing and debugging and breaking down problems into smaller parts. Those are our student look fors. But that's not the only thing. We're centering that framework that I showed you, that's around human judgment and centering justice. And when you look through that the actual document with the framework, it's not just a framework. There's some real practical ideas on how we can engage district teams in thinking about it. I gave you some student ideas, right, of student lessons, but if you're thinking about engaging your district, I highly recommend that a task force approach is what the approach that you take, because folks left that Digital Promise and AI literacy event with Kat and Digital Promise and Play Lab, and they had they wanted to do more, and that's where we start the conversations in your smaller district teams about how we implement this at large scale, not just for educators in the classroom, but for everyone to be involved in. So there's a lot within that framework that I would definitely tap into, and I tap into Digital Promise too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sonal. And excellent. So Damien's saying being on the local AI task force to build an AI policy, just wants to make sure to talk about that bill. Absolutely. I also, this was like the perfect transition, Sonal, and those in the chat. This is great because I'm going to go ahead of a second. We also have at the state level, Senate Bill 1288, that calls for CDE to have an AI work group. So that is currently in the planning stages, but we absolutely want to hear input from all of you. So there is a link there, and I'll be giving you the slides via email. I'll registrants in the next couple of days, but we'd love to have to hear what it is that you are looking for. We will certainly address this question in that work group of what is AI literacy? How should we move forward with this? So thank you so much for that. I also wanted you to know next steps. And let's see, there we go. Next steps that we have to support you. So all registrants are going to be sent an email with links to the CDE AI resources, links to this presentation, opportunity to provide input for SB 1288, and a recording link will be sent once via email as well once that's released. You also can look if you want to watch it sooner or share it. It will be on the CDE Facebook page, the recording, so feel free to check that out as well. Want to let you know that we have 2 more sessions this month, and we're already in plans. We've already got one locked down for March, but I'm waiting to have some more before I put out the graphic. But there are a couple of other webinars that will be excellent. Highlighting and addressing inequities with AI will be on the 20th, and equity-minded instruction in an age of AI is going to be the 26th. So certainly encourage you to register for those. I'll put the registration links in the follow-up email. And I want to thank you all for all that you do. Thank you for being with us. Special thanks to our speakers who come and volunteer to share their insights with us. Definitely appreciate you. And have a wonderful day, everyone.